Hey guys, welcome to the very first episode of the Synergy Sessions. We're very excited to be here. We are your co-hosts. I am Anna Kitano.
I'm Eliane Longi, and today is going to be all about us. We're actually going to give you guys a little bit of our story and how we came together, who you are, and everything about how we got into this beautiful industry.
Awesome. So do you want to tell our audience how me and you actually met? Because it goes way before real estate, which is a misconception. A lot of people think we met through real estate.
Yes, that's going to be a long answer because we do go way back. Honestly, I don't even remember the exact year, but I do remember that my middle child, who's 11 today, he was a baby and I needed a sitter. And somebody told me that your mom used to babysit. So I used to live all the way from Kenilworth to drop off Danny at Dona Nice's house. And Danny used to stay there with a bunch of kids all day. And basically, Dona Nice raised my two kids because after Danny, we had Dylan. And I remember, you were going somewhere, you're off from school.
I was going to China for the first time.
Yes. And, and I was about to deliver Danny, and we're kind of planned it out that as soon as you came back, you take Dylan.
I think I had just landed and you had just told me, well, Dylan was born, so you're coming over tomorrow.
Yes, I actually had maybe a 3-day maternity leave at home, and you came over and you took Dylan and you were babysitting him. I had to get out at that point. I was already a realtor, so I'm sure there was some showing or some kind of business that I had to take care of. Very, very funny story that I love to share with everyone. Our second child, Daniel's first word was not mommy, was not daddy, was not papai. It was actually Carlos with a Portuguese accent because that is Anna's father's name. So that's how close we are. So we go way beyond real estate. We're family. I am forever going to be in debt to your parents for raising my kids or helping us raising our kids.
It's funny how you said that he said it with a Portuguese accent, which a lot of people always ask us if we're Portuguese. And I am Portuguese from Portugal, and Eliane is Portuguese from Brazil. So we always actually make fun of each other with our accents.
Yeah,
we're always
we
kind of
don't
teasing
speak
each
the
other.
same language. We think we do, but we definitely
don't.
All right, so this is a little bit about how we know each other. But it took, I was a realtor before Anna. Anna had a full-time job. And now, why don't you tell them how you decided to get into real estate since you're going way back?
I got into real estate during COVID. So yes, I was one of those COVID agents that everyone makes fun of.
A good one.
But I came out of it. I made it through and past the COVID era, I should say. But really, I was home. I'm not one to sit around and do absolutely nothing. I don't like to sit around and watch Netflix. I just can't stand still. So I was a full-time health and physical education teacher at the time, and now we went from being in the gym, being active with the kids, to sitting behind a computer and trying to teach physical education from a screen, which was terrible. So, and I used to love to go, and I still do, working out, going to the gym. The gyms were closed, so I needed something that would interest me again. So with that, I saw a friend of mine at the time. He was about my age. We went to school together. He was also a physical education teacher, and he had just bought, and he posted on Instagram, his third or fourth multifamily investment. And something triggered my mind that I said, well, what am I doing wrong? If this person is doing so great in life, how do I become that person? Or how do I get to that level of success? And it was at that moment that I reached out to that person, and he was an open book. And from there, I realized I wanted to get my real estate license. I started reading some real estate books, and I reached out to youth. And I asked her, where do I get my real estate license? Because I remember the day that you came to pick up your kids at my house or my parents' house, and you had just passed your real estate license, and you were super excited about it. So I knew you were the person I had to reach out to. So I reached out. You gave me where I needed to go. I got my course, and here we are.
Like it was yesterday.
It's actually, I don't know what year that was, probably 2018. What year was Dylan born?
Oh my God, that's a hard question. Hold on, guys. I have 3 kids. So by the way, I do have 3 kids. I have a 16-year-old, an 11, and a 7-year-old. So Dylan was born 2018.
Yeah, so I think that it was 2018. But let me ask you something. At what moment did you realize that real estate wasn't just a job, but it was a career?
I didn't wake up one day and say, I'm going to become a realtor, right? Mm-hmm. for me, my story is very different than yours, and I've done videos, that talks about my coming to United States story. Maybe one of these days I'll share it here. But in regards to real estate, I wanted to get my license. I remember as clear as day. It was summer. I wanted to get my license only because I am an investor. My husband and I do have a couple of properties, and every investor thinks that if they get their real estate license, they're gonna be able to get all the deals,
Yep.
right? Like everybody thinks that. So that was me. I'm like, I'm just gonna get my real estate license so I can get the best deals there is. And I was down the shore having a short day with my girlfriend, and I told my best friend about it, about my idea. And she did say, she goes, listen, I think you're going to be an amazing realtor. I think you should do it. And I said to her, you're crazy. I am not leaving my job. At that time I was the director of sales for a book printing company. I was there for 16 years. And I was like, I am never going to leave my job. I'm just doing this for a psychic or whatever you want to call it. And coming back from the shore, she sent me a Zig Ziglar YouTube video, which I love him, and felt like he was talking to me about it. And then later in that week, I came across an article that truly changed my life. And I said, okay, so you know what? This is the universe. I believe in everything in the universe. The universe talks to me every day. And you know that I'm not lying.
Absolutely. We're complete opposites, guys, by the way. Everything she believes in, I don't. But somehow we work.
So I truly believe that the forces in the universe does speak to me. So for me, that was strike number 3. And for me, it was like, okay, the universe is telling me that I need to do so. Let me go and get my license. And I did. And I ended up getting my license, telling you the day I passed the test,
Yep.
Getting into the brokerage that I always wanted to get into, staying there for a very long time. And here I am. So yeah, I guess that's the short version of
how you and I both got into real estate and how we ended up coming together and starting.
Yeah. And then I still had a full-time job, and I was a realtor and a director of sales for another company. And I did that for a good 2 years. And it got to a point where my previous company was telling me, like, listen, you got to decide, you're either here or there. And I had to come home, and I had to talk to my husband, and I had to consult people in the industry that I value very much. And everybody's like, you're ready, just jump, just make the jump and become a full-time realtor. And I am very thankful for all of those people, because I reached my only regret in life, honestly, is that I wish I had done it sooner. Yeah.
Yeah, and I can definitely jump in and talk a little bit about some of the struggles I had, because it's similar to you. I also had a full-time job. As I mentioned, I was a full-time teacher. And at some point, it wasn't that my boss or anybody was saying I had to pick one or the other, but I felt like I needed to make that decision, because we all know that real estate could be a very demanding career, although on social media it might not seem like it. It might seem like all glitz and glam, but there's a lot of work that goes into it. And so at one point I had to make a decision, and you and I landed a very big opportunity, and you were the one that said, listen, we need to give this our full-time attention. So I jumped in and did it. But before that, it was a lot of a struggle of working very late hours, working 18-hour days sometimes to really get everything done that needed to be done for our clients. And eventually I made that jump to full-time.
I think because very much like me, you never treated real estate as a part-time job.
Never.
So since your day one, since your year one, you always had 2 full-time jobs. Right.
Yeah.
So it wasn't into that big opportunity that I remember, like, listen, if we land this, you have no choice. Like, I'm not doing this by myself. But it is very different. And I think that's the reason why we have a lot of synergy, is because everything that we do,
Of course,
we go all in, right? Like, we are 100% there. So whether it's work, whether it's a party, whether it's a very nice dinner, whatever it is, we're always 100% in. So we can honestly say that we truly did have both jobs full time for however long we did.
Absolutely. And with that, after doing that for so long, I feel like a lot of other agents that were just getting into the business kind of started to realize that, and we started to get a lot of questions and people reaching out to us and asking us questions on how to do what we did. So how did you go from an agent or a regular agent to a team leader? Did you just switch hats one day, or how did that go about?
No, absolutely not. First of all, it took me a long time, to even get there, right? A lot of people ask me that question. A lot of people, they are kind of feeling overwhelmed, always ask me, should I start a team right away? Should I hire a buyer's agent? So I can answer that question two ways. So basically, if you start feeling that you're leaving money on the table because you're not able to take care of the demand that's coming to you, then that's the point that you need to hire not a buyer's agent. That's the point that you need to hire a transaction coordinator. I have not written a contract for over 4 years. I am the biggest delegator there is. If I can delegate a job that is not worth my time, I'm doing it. I think that's number one. Then when did I feel that it was time to start a team? Again, same to what you just said. I've always been a mentor. That's my passion. I'm a wife and a real estate broker, but I'm also a mentor. Like I'm a giver. That's my passion. And my passion is giving all that I am to my clients, but all that I am to my agents. And because of the position that I used to have, that was part of the job. And I've always had coaches. Like, I believe in coaches. Anybody that is doing whatever they do and on a professional level, like every basketball player, every football player, every successful person does have a coach. So I've always had a coach. And I remember, my coach, Sarah Liam, at the time, which I love her to death, like one of the best coaches I've ever had. I remember us placing a bet, and she did say, she goes, Eliani, you're not listening to me. So if you don't start a team by February 1st, you're gonna have to donate $1,000 to your favorite charity. And I remember you telling me it's time for us to do it. And I wouldn't put two and two together. So I guess it was a combination of one, feeling overwhelmed. We already had the TC that she's been with us. Marian has been with me for years. So I already had them. So what else? This was the natural next step.
Yeah.
In a way for us to be able to continue helping people.
I agree 100%. I feel like a lot of our synergy comes from a similar background for me as well. Coming from my teaching background, I love to teach. I always love to give back, just like Eliani. And anytime an agent would come to our office and ask us for our time or ask us to help them with anything, it's a passion that we both have. So another thing that really helped us kind of create this synergy and the synergy group really came together in that form. So
yeah. What were the biggest struggles you had when you first started?
Yeah. So
aside from having to juggle two jobs at the same time.
Well, I would say besides having to juggle two jobs at the same time, is now I'm learning an entire new career, and I took a lot of time to learn everything until it wasn't until we were on a Zoom call where one specific agent, I was kind of letting her know, I'm doing all this training, but I need to kind of get out there and start doing. And she said, so get out there and start doing. And so it wasn't until I landed my first client, which was actually a funny story, my very first showing, but that was a struggle I had. I was too focused on just learning everything and trying to be perfect before going out there and just doing the job and getting out there. So that was probably one of my biggest struggles, besides having to time manage and get out of work, go do showings and whatnot. That's how I got into it. But my very first showing was really funny because I got there super nervous. I grabbed the keys, and of course I dropped the keys. We were on a deck, so there was cracks in the deck, so the keys fell, and I had to crawl under full of spider webs and go and find the keys in the dark.
Was the buyer there?
And the buyer was there behind me with a little flashlight because it was already dark. So that was kind of a little interesting, funny story. So when they said get out there and start doing, I did, and that was my first encounter with a buyer.
What do I always say? Done is better than perfect.
Exactly.
Right? Like I am the completely opposite of that. For me, it's like, let's get it done and we'll figure it out after. Like,
Yep.
You know what I mean? And for you, yeah, I'm happy that you did it. Like, let me go do this showing. I'll figure it out after,
Yep.
right?
And that changed a lot of the way I do things now. I have more of that mentality now of let's just do it and then we'll figure it out as we go. But I feel like it's gotten us to where we are today by just pushing through and learning from each other. Why do clients choose us over other agents?
Today, we are very blessed to say that the majority of our business comes from sphere or past clients or repeat clients, right?
Absolutely.
And that says a lot that answers that question. We are very, very honest. I'm not one to sugarcoat things. I am the first agent that will be doing a showing with a buyer, and I will literally tell the buyer, I am not selling you this house. Because the buyers are there. Imagine a kid in a candy shop, right? They only see the pretty things. Especially, there's homes that we professionals, we can see it. They're not gonna catch it. So the moment you start seeing the house is truly is not going to be a good purchase for your client, why push it? So,
Absolutely.
I think that the majority of our clients, they choose us because we're honest. Even for a seller, I've walked from many, many listings because I'm sitting on a listing appointment and I'm telling them and I'm showing them that the house is worth X, and they're telling me that the house is worth Y. And I'll tell Mr. Seller, I understand. I am not the listing agent for you for multiple reasons, right? I don't want to take a listing my job is not to take the listing. My job is to get the home sold. So if our expectations are completely off, we already don't have the synergy that we have to have. Like, yes, a lot of times the sellers is a little bit off where we can have a different conversation and I can walk them through the expectations. Like, listen, we will test market at your price point, but 3 weeks from now, if we don't get the answers that we want, we're gonna be having a different conversation.
Absolutely.
And because of X and Y, Z. So in a short answer is because we're very, very honest. I'm not looking for a yes. I'm looking for a partner. I do not want a buyer that's not gonna, whenever it's the time for them to sell their house, I need them to be so happy with the service that they're gonna be calling us again.
Absolutely. I would add to say that we're not interested in just making a sale. We're always interested in creating a bond and a relationship with all our clients, whether it's a buyer or a seller, because we want to be their go-to professional for all things real estate for the rest of their lives. Whether it's just giving us a call to ask us for a vendor recommendation or asking us what the next steps would be on their next home purchase or their next home sale. We're not interested necessarily in just making that commission on that one sale. We're really in the business of creating relationships, building a network, which I think we've done a really great job at. And that's why a lot of our business is repeat business from past clients.
Yeah, I actually do love that very recently we kind of changed our title per se to advisor, instead of realtor or real estate agent.
Correct.
Because I want you to call me, if you're trying to figure out where the next, shop is or the next deal is, or what's my favorite wine. So I do want you to come back to us for anything other than just real estate.
Absolutely. What do you think most agents get wrong when they're first getting into the business? What would you recommend that they do?
They are brand new agents and they are chasing the money. That is the absolutely worst time for you to be looking at that. And I have said that the other day, treat it like if you went to college and now you need to do an internship. Guess what? You're not going to make a lot of money. You may not make any money as an intern. So if you're a brand new agent, I do not need you to be counting your money. You need to be worried about who am I going to associate myself, who's going to literally teach me everything there is to know about this business. You are dealing with people, which is not a very easy business. Whoever tell you that real estate is an easy business is lying.
Not. It's a big myth.
Right? We're dealing with different personalities. We're dealing with the most expensive asset this person is buying or selling. So for younger agents, they truly, I think their biggest mistake is when they're only getting into this business because of the money and not like really trying to learn or attach themselves to a mentor or a team.
Yeah, I mean, I think this business is a lot, like I said, about relationships, but it's a people's business. So you have
100%.
to be able to be around people. And one of the biggest recommendations that I would give to any agent out there listening is if you have an office to go into the office and sit there. And even if you're shy, maybe you don't want to ask for mentorship, because I know that's some agents are a little shy at the very beginning. Just go into the office and sit there and absorb everything you hear. A lot of our business is done over the phone. So sitting in the office and just hearing and leaning into conversations, and then even asking that agent, hey, I just heard that conversation you had over the phone. What was that about? How can I learn from that? And then shadowing agents. I remember when I first got into the business, literally as soon as I decided to jump in and start doing, I shadowed you on, I believe it was a Sunday, you were taking your client out for a few showings, and I just kind of sat there in the back and learned everything, to the point where after a few, you had to run out to do something, and then I just took over, and it was like all
Done
hands
is
on
better
deck.
than perfect. Go do
and
it.
it was actually, I believe it was a home inspection. That was the first
Yeah.
home inspection I shadowed, and from there, it's a recommendation I give all agents as to, if you're shy to ask, at least just go into the office.
Home inspection is something that every agent need to sit on. Like
100%.
And you know what's important is, like, you don't necessarily need to have a client. You literally can go to your broker and say, hey, who's your preferred inspector? Can you ask them to let me sit on inspections with them? Because the more you learn, again, it goes back to learning, right? The more you absorb, like, go try it. Go sit on a home inspection before you have a buyer, because then the next time you have to do that, you don't look like a brand new newbie. And they absolutely will let you shadow. And you need to learn, you need to know what it is a water shut off valve, or like the littlest things. So by shadowing a home inspector will help you become a better buyer's agent, because then when you're by yourself doing a home tour, you kind of know what's what.
No, I absolutely agree with that. I mean, when I first got into the business, I didn't even own a home. So sitting and doing home inspections, I learned so much about what a furnace was and where the water valve was, electric panels, everything, mold scenarios, so much. You just learn so much. So definitely shadowing in a home inspection, multiple home inspections, because every transaction in every house is unique. So I think that's a very good way to get into the business and start learning. That's really it.
All right, so I hope we are able to answer a bunch of questions about us. Again, we are an open book, so if you guys have any questions, please feel free to DM us. Find us online. Instagram for me is elongi.realtor. Anna, what's yours?
Anna C. Realtor.
Yes, so feel free to send us questions for the next episodes. We're going to have a bunch of guests coming over and sitting with us. And we hope to be able to give you guys some value and help you guys in any way that we can. So thank you so much for watching.
We're super excited. See you guys next episode.